Welcome back to math. Today we're on module 4, lesson 17, multiplying decimals and fractions. But let me go back to this problem. How would we draw this out with a box? Well, I'm going to draw it out like this. I'm going to say, okay, I have my half, right?
Right.
All right. Now if I have a half, shade it in, and I'm going to multiply it by a third. Okay, so I'm going to change my color, turn it into green, looks a little Christmassy. We're only really talking about this part right here now. That is 1/3 of a half, right there. So now, how many boxes do I have total? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our bottom number is going to be 6. And how many of them are in this third one? So it'd be 1/6. Now if I multiply these straight across, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. So that is the same as that. Now that's our concept for what we want to do with today's lesson. I'm going to use a highlighter, and I'm going to do the best I can to highlight this well. I have 4/10, so I'm going to highlight it like this. That's 2, 3, 4. That's 4/10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4/10. Now we're going to multiply it by 3/10. 3. So I'm going to change my color so you can see it. Okay? I'm going to go with yellow. I hope it shows up. So I go this way, just like we did on the above problem. We're going to do it this way. So there's 1 2/10, 3/10. Do you see that all we're interested right now in is this part. That part right there. So how many boxes do we have inside that part? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 out of how many is in this whole thing here?
100.
100. So it'd be 12 hundredths. Okay? How would we write this as a decimal? Well, remember, we have a 0 decimal point. This is out of tenths, or 10 pieces, and this is hundredths, or 100 pieces. So we put our 12 right here. So 12 over 100 would equal 0.12. Okay, so let's move on to our next box. This is where it's going to get a little bit trickier. I'm going to take this 1.4. What's 1.4? Well, this means one whole, right? So that's a whole. So that means I'm going to have to highlight this whole thing. Right?
Yep.
And then how much is that right there? 4 more, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got those highlighted. Now, I've got 1.4. And I'm going to multiply it by 1/10. So how much am I going to highlight now? Well, I'm just going to highlight 1/10. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, how many boxes do I have here? How many boxes do I have here?
1.
Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 10 on this one, plus 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 on this one. That makes 14 over what number? Well, we're talking about the all hundredths, right? So that'd be 14 hundredths. Now, if we had to do this in multiplication or an algorithm, we could do it like this. What is 1/10 as a decimal? What's 1/10 as a decimal? It's 0.1, right?
Yes.
So 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. And then we can move our 0 down right here. I've got 1. I'll highlight these. 1, 2. 2 places in back of the decimal. I've got 1, 2. My decimal's there. That's in the algorithm, right? What if I wanted to change that algorithm and do the shifting method? I could have that here, right? And my 1.4 there. Which way would I want to shift? And I'm just going to shift one time because there's 1, 0, and 10th, right? That goes here. This one goes over here. So, is this the same as that? Yes, it is. 0.14. Those are equal. Nice job. Okay, let's move on and do this last problem. I'm going to highlight what? I'm going to highlight my 1 hole, right? That 1 hole stands for this one, right? And then how many columns am I going to do? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Excellent. This is 1.7. 1.7. All right, now how much am I going to highlight now for the 6/10? How much? Well, what did I do up here? I did 1/10, right? And I went across to the 1/10. How many am I going to want to go across for this? 6 of them, right? Okay, so let's do that. There's 1, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that correct? Okay, so the question becomes, how many do I have in this box here? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6. And I've got 10 on the bottom, right? So what's 6 times 10? It's 60. So I've got 60 in here, right? And then how many do I have over here? Well, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 that way, right? And 6 this way. 6 times 7 is what?
42.
Ah, 42. So I have 42 over on this side. Because remember, I'm only counting this area right here. And I counted only this area right here, right? Because those are the 2 combination colors, right? So, what am I going to do? I'm going to add 60 and 42. That's going to give me what? 60 and 42. And that's going to give me 6 plus 4 is 10. So that's 102 over what? These are in hundreds, right?
Right.
Over 100. Ooh, that's bigger, isn't it?
Yes.
So if I have 102 over 100, what does that equal? That equals 1 and 2 hundredths, right? Excellent. That would be good. And if I wanted to make that smaller, I actually could, couldn't I? Could I half this? What's halving 2? It's dividing by 2, right?
Right.
So it's going to give me a 1. And if I half the 100, what is that going to be?
50.
Right. So I'm going to have 1 and 1/50th. Right?
Right.
So this is how we do this kind of problem. And we could check our math if we wanted. We could do 6/10 times 17 tenths, and that's going to give us what we've already worked out, because 17 times 6 is going to be what? 102. So that's going to leave us with 102 over 100. Right?
Right.
So we can do it that way too. I hope that this is helpful. Feel free to go back over it. I love math.